All right, we are jumping into 10.2, modeling and assembly. So we're going to just kind of work our way through these directions, but we are going to model the base of your golf course hole together. So you should already be by your members. Quick reminder, your project manager should be checking in with your group members periodically to see how people are doing. So let's go ahead and start a new part file in Inventor and begin modeling the base. And just a quick reminder, the dimensions and the constraints are in the intro page on 10.1. And for this first part, and for every part, you're going to save in your group folder in the V drive, and we're going to name it first name underscore last name underscore whatever the name of the part is. So let's go ahead and start with that. So let's go to Inventor. Let's do a new part file. So I'm going to click on the big new button, or Control N is your keyboard shortcut. And just double check, make sure you are in the English template. We want to make sure we're doing English standard measurement system. And then I'm going to click on the standard inch IPT and click create. And if you remember, the first thing we should always do whenever we start a new part file is to start with a file save as. And we just went over that naming convention. It's going to be your last name underscore first name, and then underscore, this one we could call base. Let me pause it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a file save as, and we need to navigate to your group folder in the V drive. It's very important that you're saving there and not in your student folder. So I'm going to go navigate to that V drive, D West, find the period that I have you. And then you'll notice that there is a mini golf project folder. You're going to click into that. And then now here are your group numbers. If you forgot your group number, I believe we listed them in the collaboration space so you can see what group number you have. So click into your folder. I'm going to go into group 8 because I know there's no group 8. And you'll notice that there's already 2 files in there. Those are the files that I'm giving you to start with. But let's go over that naming convention. It's going to be your last name underscore first name underscore name of the current part we're about to make. So we'll call this one the base because this is like the base of the hole. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on save. Remember, as soon as you do that, in a second here, the name will change up top. So let's go ahead and do a quick review on what the dimensions are of the base. So I'm going to go back to 10.1, and I'm going to look at some of those constraints. So the area of the hole is 25 foot by 25 foot by 1 foot, but remember, Inventor uses inches, not feet, so we are going to use these numbers. So the 2 numbers that we need to know right now are 300 by 300. So we're going to go to Inventor, start a new 2D sketch. Now this is where a lot of you are going to make a mistake. You're going to want to go to that front view, but if you remember, we're going to start with a top view on this. So I'm going to click on the XY plane. So I did a start 2D sketch, clicking on the XZ, I take that back, XZ plane. I'm going to click on that. It's going to go into my top view, but remember, we want to make sure that this view cube is orientated correctly. So I'm going to click this little arrow to rotate that so I can read it properly. And we're going to make our life easy and use a rectangle tool. And remember, we always start at the origin, 0, 0. So I'm going to snap to that. And I'm going to move my mouse. Now, if you remember, we're doing this in inches, so it's going to be 300, tab. Tab key will get you to that other dimension. Tab on the keyboard, and then 300. And then hit enter on the keyboard to confirm those measurements. So all I did was I made a rectangle 300 by 300. And if you zoom out, pan over, you can see your fully constrained rectangle. Now I'm still in the rectangle tool, so I'm going to hit escape to get out of that. And I'm going to finish my sketch. So I made a rectangle 300 by 300, snap to the origin, finish the sketch, and now I'm going to extrude. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, which is E on the keyboard, and I'm going to extrude that If you remember the height, it was 1 foot or 12 inches. So I'm going to type in 12. And then I'm going to say OK. So right now I have the general base of the hole. That is the area that I have to work in. I cannot go outside of that square. Now, if you're wondering on the height constraint, like how tall you can go, if you remember, the overall height cannot go over 15 feet or 180 inches. You cannot go over that max. So those are some of the basic constraints. One of the next things you're probably going to start doing is maybe adding the hole. So we can add the hole right now, and then you can move it wherever you want. So let's go ahead and add it. It has a diameter of 4.25, and it has a depth of 5 inches. So let's just go ahead and do this. Let's do a 2D sketch on the top face. Again, I'm going to rotate this cube so I can read that. So I did a 2D sketch on the top face. Remember, whenever we have a hole, we are going to use the point tool. So I'm going to click on point. Click anywhere you want on this face for right now. If you have an idea of where the end of your hole is going to finish, you can put the hole in that general proximity. So if I know my hole is going to end over here, just click over there for now. We can always adjust this later. And then I'm going to hit escape. And I'm going to add in 2 dimensions, because whenever you have a hole, you need a minimum typically of 2 dimensions. I need this dimension, and I need this dimension. And again, we can always adjust those numbers later. Once you start finishing your hole up, we can always change these 2 numbers. So if you're not happy with where the hole is located, we'll just end up coming back into this extrusion and just adjusting these numbers to get it where you want it. But for now, we'll just leave it as is. I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. I'm going to click my Hole tool. And remember, our diameter was, what, 4.25, I believe? We're just going to use a regular simple hole. No counterbore, no countersink. We do want a certain distance for the termination. Remember, termination is the depth. So I'm going to click on distance there. And now you'll notice I have 2 measurements I need to add in. This is fine. And we'll leave that. So the depth of the hole, which is this number, is going to be, what did we say? 5? Is it 5? I think it's 5. Yes, 5 inches deep. And the diameter of the hole, which is this number, was 4.25. So I got my depth as 5. Diameter is 4.25. So you can see the small cup there being generated. I'm going to say OK. And then I will now have the hole there for my golf ball to go into. Some other quick general stuff. Remember, you can change colors. So if you want to change the color, make this look like turf. Remember, you can just click on the face and change the color up here. I can go to maybe like a green. I don't know if I want polish though, because that might make it look like really shiny. They have like a dark green, maybe something like that. And then if you want maybe the inside of the cup to stand out, maybe click the inside of the cup and maybe change that to white, because that's typically what you'll see on the inside of the cup that the ball goes in. So maybe if I scroll down, let's see if I can find a white. There we go. So those are some things that you could do. Again, you could change these colors of the outside faces to green as well. Maybe when you add in a path, so maybe I'll use a new sketch on this face. I can then use I'm just going to do this really quick so you could just kind of follow, or you don't have to follow along. Maybe I'll use a spline to kind of create a windy path. But remember, I have to close the shape off. So maybe I want to cut that down into the grass to have a path for the ball to kind of follow, or the people to kind of walk that path as they go from start to finish. And just remember, you are going to have a T-pad at the beginning. Let me just open that up really quick. Oh yeah, go ahead and hit save. Let's do a quick save. Hit that save button. So I'm just going to show this to you really quick. You'll be doing this later on in the assembly, but I just wanted to remind you of it. So when you go into that group folder, You'll see the podium, which you'll constrain to the hole later on in the assembly. That's where people can write down their scores. And then you have a T-pad. So if you've noticed, I've given you 3 different start points. What that's kind of nice is the golfer can then choose, do they want to start over here, here, or here, to maybe get a different angle to where they start the hole. But I'm giving the golfer 3 different start positions. They can pick one that they want to start at. And the tee-off pad is going to go at the beginning of the hole somewhere, and you won't do that until the assembly. But so you got to remember that you got to leave some room for the tee-off pad where you want to start. If you want to know how big it is to figure out maybe the size of your path, then just open that part file and look at the sketches to figure out the measurements. All right, so that's it for the base. I'm going to hit save, and then now you're moving on to modeling all the rest of your parts for your hole based on your theme.